Every great strategy begins with one essential question: what truly drives people? If you want to understand how to make anyone obsessed with you, Machiavelli would argue that you must first understand the foundations of human nature. Without this, any attempt at influence is shallow, temporary, and easily broken. With it, you gain the key to unlocking desire, loyalty, and even obsession. For centuries, philosophers painted humanity in idealistic colors. They believed people were guided by reason, justice, and virtue. But Machiavelli tore away that comforting illusion. He looked at people not as they should be, but as they actually are: fragile, emotional, self-interested, and often inconsistent. He observed rulers who claimed to act for the good of their people, but in truth sought power for themselves. He saw lovers who professed eternal devotion, but abandoned each other when circumstances changed. To him, this wasn't a tragedy, it was simply the reality of human nature. At the core of his philosophy was the idea that people are ruled far more by their passions than by logic. Fear, desire, pride, envy, and ambition, these were the forces that determined behavior. Rational arguments might win someone's agreement in the moment, but emotions dictated what they remembered, what they longed for, and who they followed. If you wanted someone to be obsessed with you, Machiavelli believed, you had to stir their emotions, not just their thoughts. Desire, in particular, was central to his understanding. People are constantly reaching for what they do not have. The moment they obtain something, they grow restless, hungry for the next thing. This endless cycle of longing is both a weakness and an opportunity. To make someone obsessed with you, you must learn to position yourself as the answer to a desire they have not yet satisfied, while at the same time keeping just enough mystery to leave them craving more. But desire alone is not enough. Machiavelli also emphasized the role of fear and respect. He famously argued that it is safer for a ruler to be feared than loved if he cannot be both. Why? Because love can be fickle, but fear leaves a lasting impression. Applied beyond politics, this insight suggests that obsession often emerges not only from attraction, but also from a subtle sense of awe. People become obsessed with those they cannot easily understand, those who carry an air of strength and unpredictability. Obsession thrives where admiration is tinged with uncertainty. Machiavelli also saw how easily people could be deceived. Appearances, he wrote, often matter more than truth. A person who looks confident, decisive, and powerful will command more attention than one who is truly virtuous but hesitant. People are drawn not to what is real, but to what they perceive as real. This is why so many charismatic figures throughout history have inspired loyalty and even obsession despite their flaws. They understood, consciously or not, that perception shapes reality. Another crucial aspect of human nature that Machiavelli identified was self-interest. People, he believed, ultimately act for themselves, even when they pretend otherwise. This does not mean that people cannot be generous or loving. But beneath the surface, even acts of kindness are often guided by personal benefit, whether that benefit is recognition, gratitude, or emotional satisfaction. If you want to make someone obsessed with you, then you must align yourself with their self-interest. You must make them feel that by being close to you, they gain something essential, something that feeds their pride, their ambitions, or their sense of identity. In modern terms, Machiavelli's insights line up closely with what psychology now calls emotional needs. People need validation, attention, belonging, and purpose. When someone consistently meets those needs, or appears to, the mind begins to fixate on them. This is the seed of obsession. Machiavelli, long before psychology had a name, understood this process instinctively. He saw that power did not come from force alone, but from the ability to fulfill or frustrate these deep human needs. Perhaps the most unsettling part of Machiavelli's view of human nature is his acceptance of contradiction. He knew that people could love and hate the same person at the same time. They could admire strength, yet resent it. They could long for closeness while fearing vulnerability. Obsession, in many ways, is born out of these contradictions. It is not pure affection or admiration, but a complex mix of attraction, uncertainty, respect, and even fear. The more someone evokes these conflicting emotions, the more unforgettable they become. This is why Machiavelli did not trust purely in logic, promises, or moral appeals. He trusted in strategy, carefully crafted actions that would stir the right emotions, create the right perceptions, and position a person as irresistible in the eyes of others. To him, influence was not an accident, it was a skill. And obsession was not a mystery, it was the predictable outcome of understanding human nature at its core. So when we ask how to make someone obsessed with us, the first answer, through Machiavelli's eyes, is this: see them as they really are. Not as the idealized person you wish they were, but as a bundle of desires, fears, weaknesses, and contradictions. Recognize that people are drawn to those who reflect their desires, those who stir their insecurities, and those who command their respect. Once you understand this, you no longer chase obsession, you create it. Niccolò Machiavelli, though often remembered as a ruthless political thinker, was in fact a master observer of human nature. He understood not only how rulers could hold power, but also how individuals could gain influence over others. And when we talk about making someone obsessed with you, whether in relationships, friendships, business, or leadership, it isn't about manipulation for cruelty's sake. It's about learning how to command attention, build irresistible intrigue, and create a magnetic pull that makes people want more of you. Machiavelli's writings, though centuries old, still offer sharp insights that are surprisingly relevant to how obsession forms in the human mind. The first key to obsession lies in mystery. Machiavelli believed that people are fascinated by what they cannot fully understand. When everything about you is predictable, when every move can be guessed, you lose your power to captivate. But when you hold back certain parts of yourself, when you are intentional about revealing only what you choose, others begin to lean in. They want to know more. They begin to fill in the gaps with their own imagination, and that imagination often paints you in a more fascinating light than reality ever could. Mystery breeds desire, and desire slowly turns into obsession. But Machiavelli would also tell us that mystery alone is not enough. You must couple it with confidence and presence. People are naturally drawn to those who project certainty in themselves, even if they don't have all the answers. Confidence is magnetic because it reassures others, it creates an aura of stability, and it subconsciously signals that you know something they don't. When you walk into a room with quiet authority, when you speak with calm conviction, you are planting yourself in the minds of others. They begin to admire you, sometimes even without knowing why. And when admiration meets curiosity, the foundation of obsession is laid. Another aspect Machiavelli highlights is the art of scarcity. If you are always available, always giving, always present, you risk being taken for granted. But if you strategically pull away, if you give your attention selectively, like a rare and valuable gift, you instantly raise your perceived value. People obsess over what they cannot easily have. Scarcity makes others question why you're not as accessible to them as you are to others. It makes them want to win you over, to prove themselves worthy of your time. By controlling your presence, you control the game. At the same time, Machiavelli understood the power of emotion. Humans are not driven by logic as much as they are ruled by feelings. To make someone obsessed with you, you must touch their emotions in ways others cannot. It might be through humor, through inspiration, through offering comfort, or through awakening ambition. Whatever the method, the principle is the same. Obsession is born not in mind, but in the heart. If you can create experiences with someone that stir powerful emotions, you will be remembered. And if you can consistently leave them feeling a rush they don't get elsewhere, you will become unforgettable. Machiavelli also emphasizes the importance of contrast. People crave intensity, not monotony. If you are always the same, always nice, always agreeable, always predictable, you become background noise. But if you can surprise people, if you can switch between warmth and distance, between approval and challenge, you create emotional highs and lows. This unpredictability keeps others hooked, just like a story with twists keeps the reader turning the page. Contrast makes people addicted because they are never quite sure what comes next, and they don't want to miss it. At the root of all these strategies lies Machiavelli's greatest truth. Power and obsession are inseparable. People are obsessed with what they feel has power over them. If you want to be unforgettable, you must position yourself as someone who cannot be easily controlled, someone whose attention, approval, or presence is a prize. And like a ruler who commands loyalty not through force but through influence, you will find that others cannot help but revolve around you. They will think about you when you're gone, seek your validation, and crave your return. Now let's dive even deeper. Machiavelli was not just interested in how people thought, he was fascinated by how they behaved when their emotions were stirred. He knew that once someone's feelings were entangled, reason often disappeared. If you want someone to become obsessed with you, you must learn to create an emotional imprint that lasts longer than logic. Think about this. People rarely remember exactly what you said, but they always remember how you made them feel. And if you can make someone feel alive, challenged, inspired, or even a little unsettled, they will find themselves thinking about you again and again. One of Machiavelli's most striking insights was about fear and desire. He argued that both are powerful motivators, but desire lasts longer. Fear may make people obey you for a time, but it fades once the threat is gone. Desire, however, keeps pulling people back even when you are not around. Desire turns into longing, longing turns into craving, and craving turns into obsession. If you want people to be drawn to you, you must become a source of desire, something they want but cannot fully possess. This doesn't mean manipulating cruelly, but it does mean being intentional about the way you show up. You must give just enough to ignite their hunger, while never giving so much that they feel satisfied. Consider how powerful this is in modern life. Think about the celebrities, leaders, or influencers that people cannot stop talking about. What do they all have in common? Is rarely just talent or skill. Instead, it is the aura of exclusivity, mystery, and controlled accessibility that keeps people hooked. Machiavelli would say, never let yourself be too common. Make your presence a privilege, not a guarantee. The more someone has to work to earn your time, your attention, or your approval, the more they will value it. And the more they value it, the more they will obsess over it. Another layer of Machiavelli's wisdom is the use of appearances. In The Prince, he reminds us that it is not enough to be virtuous, you must also appear virtuous. Likewise, in human relationships, it is not always about who you truly are, but about how you are perceived. To make someone obsessed with you, you must carefully craft your image. Present yourself as someone slightly beyond reach, someone who embodies qualities they admire or crave. If you seem too ordinary, their interest fades. But if you present yourself as someone unique, with qualities that spark admiration or even envy, you become the center of their mental universe. They will study you, follow you, talk about you, and slowly, without realizing it, they become entangled in your presence. This is why Machiavelli's philosophy is often misunderstood. Many assume he promoted manipulation for cruelty's sake, but that is not entirely true. What he truly understood is that human beings are drawn to strength, to confidence, to the aura of greatness. If you want people to be obsessed with you, you must embody these qualities, not because you are faking them, but because you are cultivating them within yourself. Strength attracts. Weakness repels. It is the same in politics, in business, and in love. Machiavelli would also stress the importance of keeping people slightly off balance. If someone always knows where they stand with you, the relationship becomes predictable, and predictability kills obsession. But if they are sometimes rewarded with your approval and sometimes left wondering, you create a cycle of tension and release. This psychological pattern is what makes games addictive. what makes stories gripping, and what makes relationships unforgettable. Humans crave resolution, and when they cannot fully resolve the mystery of you, they keep coming back for more. And here is the subtle genius. Making someone obsessed with you is not about giving them everything they want, but about giving them just enough to make them want more. This is where many people fail. They overgive, they over-explain, they overshare, and in doing so, they eliminate all mystery. Machiavelli would warn, once someone feels they have completely conquered you, their obsession will fade. To remain powerful in their mind, you must always leave something just out of reach. Machiavelli believed that power wasn't just about armies, politics, or wealth. It was about psychology. He knew that if you could command the mind of another person, you could command their entire life. To make someone obsessed with you, the battlefield is not outside, it is inside their imagination. That's where obsession is born, where thoughts replay, where fantasies grow, and where the mind keeps circling back to the same person over and over. How do you enter someone's imagination so deeply? Machiavelli would advise that you must become a figure of fascination. Fascination is different from attraction. It runs deeper. Attraction might be about appearance or charm, but fascination is about the way you stir the soul. Fascination lingers long after the first meeting, is not satisfied with surface-level interactions. It demands that the other person keeps revisiting you in their thoughts, wondering about your next move, trying to solve the puzzle of who you are. To achieve this, Machiavelli stressed the power of contradiction. A person who is simple, predictable, and one-dimensional never lingers in the mind. But a person who embodies contradictions, a mix of warmth and distance, kindness and strength, accessibility and mystery, becomes unforgettable. When you are too easy to define, people move on. But when you are complex, layered, and difficult to pin down, people obsess. They will keep returning, not because they fully understand you, but because they don't. Think of historical figures who became legends. They often combine traits that seemed incompatible. A leader who could be ruthless in war but compassionate in peace. A lover who could be tender one moment and distant the next. These contradictions create tension, and tension is the root of obsession. Machiavelli understood this truth. People crave what they cannot fully resolve. If you embody both light and shadow, comfort and challenge, you will dominate their thoughts. But Machiavelli would also caution, never reveal your entire self at once. Reveal yourself in layers slowly, like a book with many chapters. Every interaction should leave something unsaid, something withheld. Give enough to intrigue, but not enough to satisfy. Why? Because satisfaction ends desire. Obsession grows when the hunger is never completely met. This is why people binge-watch series, why they reread certain novels, why they cannot stop following certain public figures. It is not the answers that bind them, but the questions left unanswered. And here lies Machiavelli's genius. Obsession is not about control through force, it is about control through absence. Sometimes not being fully available is more powerful than being constantly present. Distance creates longing. Absence creates value. Mystery creates obsession. Machiavelli understood something timeless. Obsession grows strongest when there is a sense of dependency. When someone feels they need you, not just want you, but need you, you become the center of their world. But here is the subtle trick. That dependency does not always have to be material or physical. In fact, the deepest dependency is emotional. When a person feels that you are the source of their excitement, their motivation, their confidence, or even their turmoil, they will keep coming back to you because they cannot imagine life without the feelings you ignite. Machiavelli would argue that the most powerful people in history always created forms of dependency around them. A ruler might provide security, making the people fear life without him. A lover might provide affection, making their partner afraid of losing them. An intellectual might provide wisdom, making followers depend on their insights. In each case, the key is the same. Position yourself as the indispensable element in someone's life, the one thing they feel they cannot replace. Once that happens, their thoughts circle back to you endlessly. To create this kind of dependency, Machiavelli would recommend a balance of giving and withholding. If you give too much, the other person becomes comfortable, even complacent. They begin to believe they no longer need you, and their obsession fades. But if you give too little, they might abandon you entirely. The art lies in balance, providing just enough so they are nourished, but withholding enough so they remain hungry. This rhythm keeps them tethered to you. They will seek your approval, crave your presence, and constantly wonder how to earn more of what you provide. Consider this in modern terms. Why do people become addicted to social media? It is not because every post is extraordinary. It is because the platforms create a cycle of unpredictability. Sometimes you find something entertaining, sometimes disappointing, sometimes shocking, but never the same. This unpredictability triggers a psychological loop known as intermittent reinforcement, and it is one of the strongest forces of obsession. Machiavelli, though he lived centuries before neuroscience, understood this intuitively. He knew that if you could keep people guessing, you could keep them hooked. So, if you want someone to be obsessed with you, Machiavelli would advise, do not make yourself too predictable. Do not give everything all at once. Instead, cultivate an aura of uncertainty. Sometimes show great generosity, and other times pull back. Sometimes be deeply present, and other times be distant. This fluctuation creates emotional turbulence, and emotional turbulence deepens dependency. The brilliance of Machiavelli's philosophy is that he never relied solely on charm or charisma. He knew those could fade. Instead, he built his insights on the unshakable truth of human psychology. People cling most tightly to the things they fear losing, and they obsess most intensely over the things they cannot fully control. Obsession, as Machiavelli teaches us, is not an accident. It is carefully cultivated through psychology, timing, and perception. The person who understands desire, mystery, and dependency does not simply attract attention, they dominate it. They do not just enter someone's life, they live in their mind. And that, Machiavelli would argue, is the ultimate form of power. But this power comes with responsibility. To wield it wisely is to recognize the fine line between influence and manipulation. Used carelessly, it can destroy trust. Used with awareness, it can create deep, lasting connections that go far beyond surface attraction. Machiavelli's brilliance lies not in cruelty, but in clarity. He saw people for what they are, not what they pretend to be. So ask yourself, are you living passively, waiting for others to notice you? Or will you step into the role of the one who shapes perception, stirs emotion, and leaves an unforgettable mark? The choice is yours, but the wisdom is already here, passed down from Machiavelli, sharpened by centuries, and waiting for you to apply. If you found this reflection meaningful, remember to subscribe to this channel. Here we bring you timeless insights from history's greatest thinkers, translated into tools for modern power, relationships, and success. Stay with us, because the journey doesn't end here, it only begins.